Good morning. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter, your Consciousness Transformation Guide, Conscious Transformation Ascension Guide, originator of Training Energy Progression, bringing you this week's Living the Shift. It's a challenge coming on right now because there's a lot going on right now, and there's a lot coming out there. And so there's a part of me that wants to say, oh, well, there's so much chatter. Do I want to contribute to it, right? So I was sort of at a loss last night as to what to talk about because I feel like I've been out there talking a lot. I'm pulling up my thing here, my screen, because sometimes I don't see everything on my thing. So I actually had to reach out and ask for some input as to what to talk about today. And actually what came back resoundingly was, let's talk about the Fray. Let's talk about being in being in the middle of all of what's going on. So there's so many different perspectives. There's so many different there's so much different chatter that's going on right now. And it has really turned into a roar. And I know I talked about it a couple weeks ago, but it has really turned into a roar because it's not just the fear anymore. There is, it's funny, I saw something yesterday and it was like, well, things are sort of split into, good morning, Gloria. Things are sort of split into, are starting to split into the, followings of either authoritarian or libertarian of like somebody else takes care of me and makes all the decisions for me versus, choosing to make decisions for myself because, anyway, sort of getting there. There's a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of different levels of what's going on. And it's something, so here's the funny part. Those of us who have been on the active spiritual path for any period of time are aware that this has been coming for a long time. We've known for a long time. We felt it, even if we didn't remember it. We've had visions. We knew that something was to culminate to be what we call a catalytic event, not a cataclysm, a catalytic event to push us into what's next. And I know I've talked about this before, but it is so important to really drive this point home because it's the similar concept to reading about riding a bicycle and actually riding a bicycle, right? Like, okay, I can get it, and then I do it. And I think that's a lot of what we've done for a majority of this particular level of existence, this part of our consciousness of being incarnate here when we first started. And that's part of what's caused what we believe to be trauma and suffering and pain and angst and anxiety and anger. And so we've been we've known it was coming. Well, we know we're doing this, right? And so then what happens is, bam, not only does like one level happen, but like 50 levels happen, right? So many different things. So we have at the very lowest levels, you have fear, you have control. I'm not even going to spend the time. I could spend an entire half hour talking about, it's so apparent that there are so many multiple ulterior motives going on in the bigger picture, but it's not important. The thing is, it's really not important to the bigger picture, because those of us who are here to help the shifting are here to hold the space. And to hold the space, we have to be beyond all the chatter. Because otherwise we get lost in it. And I'll tell you what, it's a challenge right now. Because I could spend a whole thing talking about people, people, fellow soul family and soul tribe. We know this doesn't line up. This isn't a pandemic, the way they're trying to talk about it. I laughed because the other day I went to the store, and I guess it had been a couple of days since I'd been out or whatever, and in a couple of days I realized like it had gone from maybe 30% of the people who've been wearing masks out in public to 70% of the people, which is interesting because in the state that I live in North Carolina, we've had like 5,000 people, even diagnosed with this virus, right? 5,000 people out of 10 million in this state. Do the math. That is like 0.05%. Okay, and I think like 100 deaths. 100 deaths out of 10 million people is statistically talking as, okay, so I'm going to change my hat over to when I was in corporate for 17 years, right? So, oh, you know what? Thank you, Gloria. I just realized that it's muffled because, hold on a second. I'm going to do this in the middle and change it. Did my sound change, folks? I'm hoping it did. I don't know if I can change it in the middle of my live stream. I didn't realize that my mic wasn't plugged in. Gloria, is the sound better now? I don't know even where their settings change while I'm in the middle of the live stream. Anyway, I'm going to continue. And so what's going on is we have so much that is like, so there's stuff going, anyway, so yeah, so in a couple of days, yeah, like I said, we went from like 30% of people out in public wearing masks to 70%, and I'm in a state where like 0.05% of the population has actually been like diagnosed with the virus, and like maybe 100 people, which is, as somebody who was in marketing, that's why I started saying, when I was in corporate and in corporate marketing and communications, we looked at consumer behavior, we looked at statistics all the time, and I will tell you that 100 people out of 10 million is statistically insignificant. It's not even considered a blip on the screen. So if I'm taking in North Carolina into consideration, and we are on stay-at-home orders and whatever, and I'm walking around and looking at like 70% of the population wearing a mask in public, and so no, Gloria, I don't know if I can change over. I don't know if it changed over my mic. Hold on a second. You know what, guys? Give me a sec. I hate for this to audio. Let me see if I can change this midstream here. Audio, mic, recording, microphone. Oh, it's telling me I'm using that. Okay. Anyway, so I will talk loud, and hopefully y'all can hear me. I'm just moving my computer so maybe the mic is exposed, because I think that's what I'm. It's funny that it's muffled, right? I'm trying to talk about this. So look at the numbers. The numbers don't line up. We don't have a pandemic going on. This is like a flu season. And so the thing is then the ego goes to, okay, I can get beyond the fear of that. But then if I get beyond the fear of that, why are we then just allowing others to tell us what to do if it doesn't make sense to the higher self? This is why it's so important to listen to our guidance, to really retrain ourselves to listen to what's inside over everything that anybody says, no matter what they judge you about, no matter what they say, because this all doesn't line up in the 3D, right? So that's the first level. The second level is, and it's funny because I don't really talk about a lot of this stuff. Yes, there is a whole bunch of power play going on. There is a whole bunch of ulterior motives going on. And so that causes the next level of fear collectively. And unfortunately, when we create more fear, we create more separation. We create more challenges when it comes to, hi, Varoshka, welcome. So when it comes to coming into a unified evolution of consciousness, right, the key is for us to transcend fear and anxiety and anger and to transcend disempowerment. And this is where it is so important right now for us to really take our power back. And by power, I'm talking about to not listen to what the news is saying, to even not listen to what social media is saying, to not listen to what, politicians and the government and whatever, and the doctors are saying. Listen to what your inner voice is saying. And if the inner voice is saying, oh my gosh, we have to do this or else we're going to die, then that is actually an ego-based guidance, right? So ego-based guidance is not your highest guidance. Ego-based guidance is still based in separation, and that's why you have like those kind of energies and emotions that come through from that. So there are some days it's harder than others. And the more that one looks at media, social media, the more that we are stuck in what so-and-so says, what this person says. Now, the thing is, yes, we are starting to share more about our suspicions of this doesn't line up, of misalignment, right? So it's glad to see, because I saw this from, I've seen this from the very, Francis, fear is my main lesson. Yeah, I think right now it's the biggest lesson for everybody, because the more we feed into it, the more we create the situation, right? The more we create the fearful situation, the more we feed into the fear. So if we're afraid of this happening, we're afraid of losing all our liberties, we're afraid of this, we're afraid of somebody taking something away from us, right? Then we are going to create the situation, or we create the possibility of the situation even more. If you look in the field of quantum physics, fear actually will bring into reality the frequency of manifestation that the fear is attaching to, because it just like love will do the same thing, but we're in such the habit embodied here to be in a place of fear that it's really important for us to back up, to take a breath. And if you have been watching TV, if you have been on social media, get off. After we finish talking here today, get off, because I'm getting off. I'm getting off for the rest of the day, because I actually started getting really pulled into it yesterday. And so I'm talking loud, by the way, because I'm not sure if my mic is working and if I'm actually getting picked up on the mic on the computer, because I forgot to plug in before I started. So I'm not yelling at you. I'm just making sure everybody can hear. So the second level of consciousness here is beyond the fear of, oh my God, I'm going to get sick and die, right? Because by the way, the lesson there is to get, good morning, Kathy, is to get to the place of, so what if I die? I've said from the beginning, I have no fear of dying. So if it's my turn to go and I'm ready to go, then great, let me walk out this way, that's fine. I could walk out by falling in the shower and hitting my head. That's the most common house death statistically. So, you know, the thing for us to do is to get beyond that. But then the next level is, okay, this doesn't line up. There's a whole other game being played here, right? So now what do I look at? Well, then the fear kicks in of, oh my gosh. And this is a really big fear collectively, because we have played this out so many times. Good morning, Ann. We've played this out so many times of somebody coming in power and disempowering, and we allow a collective to be disempowered. The mic is working, but sound is outer space. Yeah, I don't know where. Okay, so maybe I'm just coming from the aethers today. So anyhow, we come to a place of looking at, okay, and it's almost like we're awakening to that. But the thing is, we're a part of that as well. If we play into it and if we agree to it, if we fear it, then we allow it to be created here, right? If we change the vibration to transcend it and to be that of love and to be that of wholeness and connectedness and acceptance, right? And strengthen that in that wholeness, then so important that will transcend and supersede all the efforts of that middle ground of the, I guess you want to call it population control or whatever. The whole, there's such an intricate story of stuff going on there, right? So, so we can have a, you know, one set of epiphanies to say, oh, okay, well, I'm not afraid of getting the virus anymore, because really, it's really a non-event in most places, right? Yeah, there are some hot spots, but typically that is like where the bigger populations are, right? And I laugh because, like I said, you know, in my state, in North Carolina, we have 10 million people, and 5,000 have even been diagnosed with the virus, and like 100 have died. And they're like, they were talking about how it soared over 100. And I'm going, soared? 100 people out of 10 million? And we're on lockdown, and the economy's, you know, crashing and all this kind of stuff. So the thing is this. when we get above the consciousness of, oh, and then the anger comes in of, oh, they're trying to control us, they're trying to create a slave state, that right? The powers that be, the Illuminati, we can talk about this forever. We can call it reptilians, we can call it the Anunnaki, we call it like anything. There has been this play that we've created and this separation since the beginning of the creation of these dimensions here, of separation, and from separation exclusion, and from exclusion comes the darkness. And that's what it's created from. We create it in that separation. So the more we fear, the more we create darkness, by the way. The more we get angry, the more we create darkness. The more we stay in love and wholeness and acceptance of the whole picture, the more the darkness loses its power, as well as like sort of the light extremes, because they were created in polarity. So then we realize that wholeness is the completion of this entire thing, right? And then we can just sort of let it implode and shift on to what's next. So that's scary to the ego, right? Because now, funny thing is, 2 months ago, right? Not even 2 months ago, we had many of us did feel like a big thing was coming this year. But like 2 months ago, like the whole world was a completely different place, right? So we've changed so much in 2 months, right? And so we went from this whole fear thing, and now like there's a bunch of protests going on and stuff, which is great, because that's waking up. That's waking up to what's going on around you. That's the first step. The next step, though, is to transcend that and be like, okay, so maybe it is time for us to throw away the way we live completely. Maybe it is time for us to let go of all the tethers that allow somebody to have power over me. And that includes fear or anger or whatever. And whether I live in a big house or if I live, in the woods, it doesn't matter, because I'm still divine and whole, and I still hold that space in unconditional love. And this is all an illusion anyway, right? So when we get to that space, that's what I'm understanding is the most important thing for us. And yet, right now, we're in this phase of getting stuck in the middle. And that song comes to mind, stuck in the middle with you, right? So, because you got the fear at the very lower level, which you still have, and people that are really just complying because they're being told to comply because they're still scared, right? And instead of going beyond the fear and coming to realization of the bigger picture, they're sort of still stuck there, and that's okay. So you have that level, and then you have the next level of, no, this doesn't line up. Now they're taking away our liberties, all this other kind of stuff. And now what do we do now? Like, what do I do now? Well, now I'm angry. Well, I want to protest and I want to fight this. And that's the habit that we've had. And so it's funny because I have to hesitate and think about that myself, because the nature of my personality since I was young has been, if you tell me not to do something, I'm going to go 5 times as hard to do it, because I'm going to show you, right? So one of my biggest lessons during this is to transcend even that, to say, okay, so is this coming from the ego? Is this like saying to do this to come from the ego? And the guidance is to stay in guidance and above the ego, and to even look at that kind of stuff and observe it without judgment. Yeah. Continue to be not just the light, Kathy, but to be the whole, to be the divine, right? To be God, because that's what we are. We are the creators of this, is the way I understand it. And we are the creators of this. We created this for a purpose. We agreed to this for a reason. This today, this and what we're looking at is the very beginning of the real reason those of us who chose to be here are here. And so that's the thing for us to remember. Like, okay, and we knew it was going to be rocky. And yes, it might have been sort of like reading a book about riding a bike and now riding a bike, but we've done that a bajillion times in this entire, creation, right? So Reshka said it does become difficult to maintain a positive upbeat energy with so much global fear. It does. And so that is why it is to be our crusade now. And you want to call it being the light, being the whole, being the consciousness of evolution. And that is to transcend even the anger of the efforts of control. And yes, there are those of us who are here to keep that in check, so that there's all these levels, and everybody who's at different levels. By the way, we all agreed to be there for any period of time that we're there, right? And so that's part of the lesson, part of the evolution. And so one of the things that I was talking about with my friend Sarah, who I do my podcast, my Ascended World podcast with every Monday, we were talking about this the other day, and we're at this point where there are these fine lines, and we're going to talk about this in more depth on Monday. But I just wanted to bring this up because it is in context. We're at this point where there are a lot of these fine lines that we are choosing to walk, right? And I don't have my journal in front of me, so I hope I remember all of what they were. One is the knowing the difference between when to be and when to do. And that truly comes from higher guidance, right? Another is, let me think about it. Sarah, if you're here, help me out. Because I don't have my journal sitting in front of me. The second is, but it's like these fine lines of, the biggest one is knowing when to do and knowing when to be. Because there's a big difference there. And when we get into this place of being and observing, and we breathe in a space of love and wholeness and knowing that I am part creator of this, right? So what is there? And it's not what should I do? That is a very important thing. And I will say this and say this and say this. We're starting to talk about this more and more, like on my Monday podcast. I'm talking about it here. Instead of saying what should I do or what shouldn't I do, that's also an ego phrase. So that invites the ego in to give you a decision, right? The question that I'm getting to ask is truly, what is there for me to do and what is there for me to be? And open your heart to the possibility of the answer. Okay? It's a very different energy than saying, what should I do? Right? Because when you say, I'm supposed to do this. Well, that's ego. That's like obligation, that's separation, exclusion, all that kind of stuff. So when you say, what is there for me to do? And I open my heart to the possibilities in love and wholeness, right? Then you can allow it to lay out in front of you, and then it's a part of trust, right? And I know that Sarah and I are going to have much more to talk about this on Monday. But the thing that's really important here is for us to even get there is for us to really transcend that. And so people are asking, how do I do that? How do I transcend it? I will tell you that it's a little bit of a shock to the system this week, because it's almost like we got transcendent, many of us got transcendent to the fear, right? And then the next level is the anger that's coming up for the effort at control of the population, for an excuse that doesn't really hold water when you really pay attention. So when so what happens is that has brought collective anger, right? So first was the collective fear, and we thought that was big. Now we've brought up this collective anger. And why is that? Because over the eons, we've done this experiment so many times. So many times, the most recent, by the way, Hitler, and people, I've been saying that from the beginning, and I've had some people scoff at me, and I'm just like, it's how it starts, right? And so there's a part of us, and this has been recent enough in history, it's only a couple generations, to say, whoa, yeah. And by the way, I was a part of this before. I'm not going to be a part of this again. And that's where the anger comes. But the key is to say, I'm not going to be a part of this, or I'm going to, the thing is, I'm going to do this differently this time, is to transcend the fear and even the anger. And that's our next step. That's what I feel like the next step is over the next week. We're going to take this day by day. Maybe I have to come and do this more than once a week, which is sort of funny, because I was like, I don't even know what to talk about last night. But this is a big topic. This is a big focus. And for us to get off the social media, I'm getting visions this morning of actually just creating sites to go sort of, you want to say go back to creating sites off social media where we can just connect and have discussions and actually just share an energy together, have a different conversation, because as we go along, this stuff is becoming more and more, it is becoming more and more policed. And so that is not so much fighting, as so much simply choosing to not be a part of it, choosing to transcend it from a place of love, and saying, okay, so if it's not for me to do that, if it's not for me to fight in that way, what is there for me to do? Yes, now, Mel, right, Kathy? I have a conversation with somebody going on in California where we're like, we have to, it's important for us to start communicating offline. And ultimately that is to connect telepathically, because we can once we get out of the fray. And then once we get out of that, so then we can stay connected. And we are, by the way, we do so much stuff together out there, especially, in Dream World right now. But the more and more of the population starts to do that, the more this will transcend what this is starting to look like, and the icky part of what it's starting to, the faster we can transcend that and get past it, right? So I was talking to somebody in California, which I'm supposed to talk to. I'm supposed to talk to today, actually, again, and we're talking about ways to connect offline, even if we don't have the current 3D representational ability to physically get together, right? And to find a way to connect even without, it's sort of fun because it makes it a little bit like spy movie-ish, right? How do we do this in a way that's that is under the radar, that's hidden in plain sight? And so, stay tuned because we're going to be talking about that. Not so much totally online. Maybe first it's going to be off the social media and on a different website, and then other ways, we'll see. Yes, maybe snail mail, maybe even, Pony Express, who knows what we're going to do next. But open your heart to all possibility. And so when we can look at it from that point of view, saying, okay, I'm going to transcend this. This is going to be a game. The game is the puzzle of how to transcend this and do it differently from what we've done before. Let's get rid of the anger and the suffer and then the fear and all that kind of stuff. And so we can but the first step for us is to go inside, and like I've been saying this for eons, right? I say this all the time, almost in every one of these podcasts every week. I talk about going inside to listen to the inner voice over everything else, and that's the practice for us to get to. So so we say that, and the thing is, like, many of us who've been what we call on the active spiritual path, we say that we are, and yet then we'll say, oh, well, so-and-so said this, and then so-and-so said this, and then so-and-so said this, and I just don't know who to believe. And when you say that, that means you're not listening to your inner guidance, right? Because you're not stepping back and asking your inner guidance, so which one of these is truth for me? Which one of these is something that is valid for me to look at? And then the next question to build in there is, what is there for me to be and what is there for me to do about this? So we will be guided to remember a way to do this, to connect without having to be. And it was funny because in the beginning of this, the very beginning of this, which was a month ago, which is so weird to think, even like a little longer than a month ago. My guidance was that, everybody's going to get pushed to the internet. Everybody's going to get pushed to the internet, and then that's going to be policed, or it's going to be filtered, and it's going to be, propagandized, and that's already starting to happen. And so it was, okay, so keep aware, stay observant, and yes, there will be a need to, of course, strengthen the inner guidance, strengthen the inner connection, to know that we are always connected, right? And we can, by the way, guess what? This might even push us to remembering how to bilocate and to teleport. That would be fabulous. In fact, I'm putting that on the menu, so that's what my focus is going to be now. So we can just be where we want to be. And you can't stop me. Once I know how to teleport, and once I remember how to teleport, you can't stop me from being anywhere, right? So, and how fun that becomes, right? So think about that. Yeah, Gloria, the Trinity Chamber was just something for anybody who watches who's a practitioner in the Trinity Energy Progression. We have what I was guided to create a long time ago, years ago now, is a Trinity Chamber that's outside of space and time, where we meet And it's sort of like a way to focus our energy of telepathic and oneness and wholeness, consciousness. And of course, anybody is welcome because we're all one. So that is, but many are not ready yet to do that, or are not feeling worthy or able enough to do it yet. Yeah. In the days before internet, TV, and cell phones, I'm in holding. We just knew what was going on and what to. Right, and we sort of lost that. It was really funny because I literally said, I was talking to this person I was talking to in California, who said, so what happens when we, have to communicate offline? Like, what do we do? She's like, I even had a conversation with my husband saying, okay, so we did, and that's the opportunity we have right now, is remembering how that connection is. Varishka says our souls were connected on a deeper level. Yeah. Well, because we remember just how to connect. And so my practice and what I do is connecting with people. So I'm used to that connection and connecting one-on-one. What I love, the one thing that I have loved about the step back is the ability to, when we are connecting with other people, we are connecting in a much, much more pure and focused way because we're not distracted by all the busyness that we're being presented with. And Kathy's back on the snail mail. Yep, that too. Except, what happens if that falls? So it's like, we have a way. And the thing is not to depend on any way in the physical. It's to utilize it, to have a practice, and then to have others to know that we have alternatives. And by the way to communicate will be guided to us if we listen to our own guidance. The way to connect will be apparent to us, or it will just be presented to us. Oh, go here. And I've had this happen many, many times. And those of us who've sort of practiced in that listening, right, that's a big thing, is to say, okay, go here. That's the guidance says go here. And you might not even understand why I'm feeling the pull to go to this place or whatever. And you go someplace, and then you drop something and somebody else picks it up for you, and you get into a conversation, and that person is a connection to somebody else. And it's the way we can do it. And because we out there know how to connect ourselves and know when we need it here and when we don't, that's really the transcendence. And that's when it really sort of becomes fun, because then it's like, well, let's play this out. Let's see how it plays out. So the first step is really, it's observing what's going on without getting pulled into it. And I'm telling you, I know some days it's harder than others. This week has been a huge upsurge in pull collectively, because we had the first wave of fear with the virus, and now we have the second wave of the fear underneath, and now we have the second wave of anger of having liberties taken away and all that kind of stuff because of the ulterior motives of others and whatever. So yes, of course, be aware of it, but don't get drowned in it. And that's for me as well, because when you are observant to collective, and you practice to say to observant to collective energies, it's easy to get sucked in, even the most astute of us. I consider myself pretty astute at this. But then if you feel like you're pulled in, then turn off step away from the computer. Like I said, after I get done with this today and I repost it, I'm done. I'm getting off social media completely today. In fact, I'm working on another website. I think that we're going to be talking about doing this stuff off social media. And and get out in nature, get away from your phone, and connect in nature, because that is getting back to ourselves, and connect that way. Oh, Kathy, gardening is great. Yeah, I've been doing it. I'm in a new house. We moved in last summer, and so and the house had been empty for several months, so nothing was pretty much done on the grounds last summer. So we are really busy with gardening right now, which is great because I love that connection in the earth and with other live beings, and letting the plants talk to me as to where they want to go and what they want to do and stuff like that. So that's a great thing. Gardening, sitting by a tree, walking in nature, going to And I know people, in some places are very limited, like many parks are closed in different places. I am fortunate to, at least we have the parks open, and I have a park right in my neighborhood, right out my back door through the woods, which is great. So I get a lot of that outdoor time. But get outside, meditate, do yoga, use your body, stay in the flow, keep the energy flowing, because the more you keep the energy flowing, and then give yourself a break. Take out some salt baths, do things that you can do so that you can let go. And then, journal. And if you need to get something out and you don't know who to talk to, you can journal. Right? I'm still doing sessions. You can call me. And I also feel like there's also other things that we're going to be putting out there soon, pretty quickly, to help, because this is the next wave, and I feel like in application it feels a lot heavier than we thought it would. And so the key is for us to keep going and to lead through the molasses and transcend it and just float above it. And to do that is for us to really stay in that focused consciousness state. So look at that this week. Look at what you can do. And if you are getting filled in, I'm telling you, step away from the computer and the TV and the phone. And even if you stay for 24 hours, for 12 hours or something, and take a break, and then put all your worries on the shelf. Like, because I know many people are getting laid off, income reduction or removal completely. You have all kinds of stuff like that going on. Worry about it. Put it all on the shelf for that period of time and say, I'm just going to be present, because presence is the key. And you can go look at our Monday Ascended Worlds podcast, and we can talk about the presence thing. So, well, and it's not less fortunate, Kathy. It's it's just where everybody is on their journey, right? And so I say I hold space of love and wholeness and gratitude for us all being different facets of the divine and choosing our parts of the journey, right? And knowing that when we're done with that part of the journey, we'll just transcend and shift out of it. So I just hold a space of love and gratitude for everyone for doing that, and that we've all come here to do this. This is what we've been waiting for. We've had this, we've had so much out there about, like, well, what's my purpose, everything else. This is the purpose, right? This here, we finally hit it. And so it's a bit daunting when the ego tries to insert itself, and then we go, yeah, let's get beyond that. Because we came to do more stuff. We came to do something that's so incredible that we had to not even remember it until we came upon it. So one step at a time, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, breathe and observe and transcend. And if you feel like you're getting pulled into it, talk to somebody, or step away and just go out into nature and journal and talk to yourself. Listen to yourself, meditate. Don't forget to do that. It is so important. It will help so much. So on that, I'm going to let you go. We'll see you next time. This is Angela Coulter signing out with the Six Living the Chef. Have a great one, guys.